Hey guys, it's TML back here with another video where today I'm going to be showing you all a $350 PC with a quad-core processor, a GTX 1063GB, and stunning looks. With that being said, let's get into the parts list. Alright, so for a processor, I have an i5-6500, which is a cheap quad-core processor based on the Intel Skylake architecture. This processor is great for running lighter titles at 1080p and some AAA games depending on the game and the settings. Next up, for a motherboard, I got an H170 Plus CSM from Asus. The board is perfect for housing all our components whilst delivering the best performance. For your motherboard, you could easily choose any option, but I chose the H170M Plus due to it having 4 DIMM slots and an M.2 slot for an SSD. For the cooler, I bought a Vitru V5. It's a great pick for a lower wattage CPU like this. If you wanted to save some cost here, you could always use like an Intel stock cooler or something like that. As well as this Aardwolf cooler I found on Amazon for 14 bucks. I post all deals like these in my Discord and our deals chat. Be sure to join, the link is in the description. For the RAM, I got 2 cheap kits of 2x4GB DDR4. One is a Corsair Vengeance kit, and the other is a Patriot kit, both clocked at 2400 MHz. The RAM speed doesn't really affect the performance of this PC given that the motherboard only supports up to 2133. For my SSD, I got a SanDisk X440. It's a basic SATA M.2 drive that gets the job done with 128GB of storage, which is plenty to store like your operating system, smaller apps, games, etc. For our mass storage, I also threw in a 1TB hard drive. It'll store our games just fine. For our graphics card, I got an Asus GTX 1063GB Phoenix model. It's a single fan model with a basic heatsink, but the temperatures are solid and it performs well for the low price. For the power supply, I've got a Thermaltake 600W Smart, which isn't the best of quality and would not recommend. Instead, buy like an EVGA BR unit on Bstock for around the same price, or if you wanted to spend a little bit extra, you could get something like an XPG Pylon or Thermaltake Smart BM2 unit. Those will offer a lot better quality for not that much more. Last but not least, the case. I got the Gamdias Talos E3. The case looks stunning for just $60. Massive thank you to the people over at Gamdias for sending it out for this build. We have a separate review for it, so if you want to check that out, it'll be linked in the cards and you can just check out our YouTube channel. With all of that out of the way, let's get into the building process. Wasn't that a nice sight? Got a slider and I'm learning to shoot B-roll. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. Alrighty, so let's get into the benchmarks and then we'll have a price breakdown. So for our test suite, we've got Rocket League at max settings, Valorant at what I dub TML settings, which is all low, except I have anisotropic filtering on at 16x, sharpening, clarity, and I'm running at 1080p. And lastly, for our games, I have Fortnite at pro settings. My other benchmarks include Unigine Heaven at extreme preset and Cinebench. So here's how it performs. performed pretty well, didn't it? Alright, now for this new section of the videos, which I'm calling the roundup. The roundup is meant to be at the end of the video where I show you how much I purchased each part for and showing my list prices and estimated profits. With that explained, here's the list. I'm going to list out my exact prices I paid and then the normal prices to replicate this build super easily. For the i5 6500, I got it for free. The story with it is that I bought a Dell Optiplex locally for 50 bucks with the i5, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256 gigabyte SSD. I used the storage and the RAM in a different build, and I sold the bare bones, i.e. the case, power supply, motherboard, cooler, etc. all for 50 bucks. Generally, for the CPU alone, you'd be wanting to look at paying around 50 bucks. Next up, I have the motherboard, which I got on eBay for $64, which is kind of high, but I can justify it due to other low parts cost. The V2 V5, I got it for $10 without mounting hardware. I've used this cooler in the past, so I just reused the leftover Intel mounting bracket. A good going price for this would be around $20, or you could get a cheaper alternative like the Aardwolf. Next up, for the RAM, I got one kit from a friend for 10 bucks, and then the other I bought for $25 on hardware swap. This is a classic case of do as I say, not as I do. It's better to just go ahead and get a 2x8 kit if you can, but this solution could work out for you. Depending on the motherboard, it may not though. You can generally find a slower kit of DDR4 for around 35 bucks. My storage, my SSD was $12 and my hard drive was $5 respectively. Storage is extremely cheap on the secondhand market, so for my prices, they should be fairly easy to replicate. Checking places like eBay, Mercari, and r/hardware swap can be pretty good for cheap storage. Next up, my GTX 1060. I feel like I kind of overpaid on this one as well, as I paid $140 on Facebook Marketplace. They're coming down a lot in price, so right now I'd say to try to get one around $100. Except for my power supply, I paid $20 for it. An EVGA model during midweek would generally be about the same price and better quality, so I advise just going for those instead, namely the 450BR. Lastly, for my case, I got the Gambias Talos E3. This case is super nice for just $60 and I highly recommend it. For our thoughts on it, check our review. For my cost, it was free as it was sent out for showcase. Huge thanks to the guys over at Gambias, by the way, for hooking it up. So yeah, with that being said, that's the roundup. So yeah guys, that's about all I've got for this video. If you liked it, please drop a like and subscribe for more content like this into the future as we grow. This video took a lot of time and effort, so I'd really appreciate if you guys could show us some love. It's been plenty long though, so I'll cut it here. Thank you guys for watching and see ya.